The dust hung thick in the air as Martha Higgins stood at the altar, and every eye in the church was on her waistline, not her face. Someone at the back let out a laugh, quick and sharp, quickly hidden behind a gloved hand. Martha did not turn around. She kept her chin up and her eyes locked on the wooden cross above the preacher's head. "Poor Wade," a voice whispered, not quiet enough. "Barren and now stuck with a barrel of a bride. What a pair." Wade's ears turned red. He stared at his own boots. Then Martha did something nobody expected. She reached down, picked up the hem of her too-tight wedding dress, the one sewn from two dresses stitched together, and she ripped it. Right there at the altar. A long tear up the side seam, loud enough for the whole church to hear. Gasps rippled through the pews. Old man Higgins half rose from his seat, face going purple. "There," Martha said, her voice calm and clear. "Now I can breathe. And now I can walk without falling on my face in front of all of you good people." Nobody laughed now. The church went dead silent. The preacher blinked, cleared his throat, and stumbled through the rest of the words faster than before. When he said, "You may kiss the bride," Wade leaned in, red-faced, and barely touched his lips to hers. The crowd tittered again, weaker this time. Martha's eyes flicked once across the room, slow and steady, meeting every smirking face one by one. Nobody held her gaze for long. Outside, the wagon waited. Wade helped her up in silence, his jaw tight with shame that was not hers to carry. As the wagon rolled away from Red Hollow, Martha finally let her shoulders drop, just an inch, just for him to see. "You didn't have to do that," Wade said quietly. "Tear your dress like that." Martha looked straight ahead at the dusty road. "Yes," she said, "I did." Lightning cracked white across the black sky, and Martha was already running for the barn before the thunder even finished rolling. 20 head of cattle were trapped near the flooding creek, and every man on the ranch was either hurt or too scared to ride. Wade lay pinned under the broken cart, his leg twisted wrong, rain hammering his face. "Martha, don't," he shouted over the wind. "Storms never let nobody but you near him, but this ain't a night for riding." Martha did not stop. She threw the saddle on the black stallion's back, hands moving fast, sure, like she had done this 100 times before. Storm reared once, eyes wild, then went still under her touch. She swung up onto his back, soaked through, hair plastered to her face, and looked down at Wade one last time. "Somebody's got to go," she said. Then she was gone, swallowed by the dark and the rain. Nobody in Red Hollow would have believed it, watching her fold bread dough in the kitchen that morning, humming soft under her breath. Nobody would have believed the same woman who took cruel words at the general store without so much as a flinch could ride like this, rope snapping through the storm, driving frightened cattle away from the rising water one by one. Hours passed. The rain did not let up. Back at the ranch, Wade dragged himself inch by inch toward the house, teeth gritted against the pane, calling out into the dark that swallowed his voice whole. Then hooves. Fast, close. Martha appeared out of the black night, mud-streaked, soaked to the bone, sliding off Storm before he had fully stopped. She found Wade on the ground and pulled him up with strength that surprised them both. "Doctor," she said, breathless, "now." She rode again into the storm, this time for his life. By morning, the town would call it luck. Martha said nothing. She simply saddled up for the morning chores as if the storm had never happened at all. Dr. Finch set the old papers down slow, his frown deep as a canyon. "Who told you this?" he asked. "Who told you that you could never father a child?" Wade's mouth went dry. "Doc Miller, 5 years back." "Doc Miller was wrong," Finch said. "Dead wrong. There is nothing in these test results that says any such thing, nothing at all." The room tilted. Wade sat frozen in his chair, 5 years of shame crashing backward through his mind all at once. Martha stood by the door, one hand pressed flat against the wall to keep herself steady. By nightfall, the whole town knew. "So it was all for nothing," Mrs. Prout said at the church social, loud enough for 3 rows to hear. "That whole marriage, That whole debt could have been settled clean, and instead poor Wade Caro is stuck with her. He'll leave her now, another woman said. Why wouldn't he? He's free. The words reached Martha before supper. She sat alone on the edge of her bed that night, staring at the small bag she had packed. Her hands shook as she folded her last shirt into it. She would not wait for Wade to ask her to go. She would leave first, before he could say the words that would break her. She reached for the door. It opened before her hand touched it. Wade stood there, leaning hard on his cane, his face pale but his eyes burning with something fierce. "Where are you going?" he asked. "You're free now," Martha whispered. "Go find someone this town won't laugh at." Wade stepped closer, cane tapping the floor. "You rode into a storm for cattle that weren't yours to save. You pulled me out from under a busted cart. You tore your own wedding dress rather than fall in front of people who never deserved your kindness." His voice dropped, steady and sure. "The doctor was wrong about me, but he was never wrong about you. You were never the mistake in this house." Martha's bag slipped from her fingers. "Stay," Wade said. "Not because you have to, because I'm asking." Mrs. Pruitt's voice cut across the town square like a whip. "Well, look who decided to show her face," she said, eyeing Martha up and down in front of half of Red Hollow. "Still eating for two, I see, even though we all know that ain't happening in that marriage." Laughter rippled through the crowd, near the dessert tables. Martha felt the old heat rise in her cheeks, but this time she did not look down. This time she stepped forward. "Mrs. Pruitt," Martha said, her voice clear and steady, carrying across the square, "you've mocked my size since the day I married into this family. So let me ask you something." The crowd went still. "Where were you the night the creek flooded and 20 head of cattle were about to drown? I don't recall seeing you out in that storm." Mrs. Pruitt's smile cracked. "Where were you when Wade Caro lay bleeding under a broken cart, calling for help? I don't recall you riding through lightning to save him." Whispers spread fast now, faces turning away from Mrs. Pruitt. "You laughed at my wedding dress. You laughed at my size in the general store. And through every single moment, I worked this land with my own 2 hands, while you sat comfortable, throwing stones at someone who never once threw one back." Mrs. Pruitt opened her mouth. Nothing came out. Wade stepped up beside Martha, taking her hand in front of the whole town. "My wife saved my life," he said, loud and clear. "Saved this ranch more times than I can count. She has more worth than anyone standing in this square, myself included." Old Samuel Caro pushed forward next, surprising everyone. "She is the finest woman to ever carry the Caro name," he said. "Anyone who mocks her mocks this family." One by one, the crowd's smirks faded into quiet nods. Mrs. Pruitt, red-faced, turned and walked away in silence. Nobody stopped her. Nobody laughed with her either. Martha stood tall in the winter sun, the same fire from her wedding day burning bright at last. Nobody in Red Hollow ever mocked her again.